What is up, guys? Welcome back to the Lumsden Motorsports Garage. I'm Wade Lumsden, and today, that's right, we got the tubing bender out and we're gonna really start bending some tubing for the front hoop here. So let's get to work. All right, so first thing really that we need to do is get a measurement. I have the luxury of having a bunch of scrap pieces and stuff laying around. I don't know if it's in the shot. Yeah, it's in the shot here. This is my little 90-degree piece that I always have laying around to help me decide angles and help me cut tube and all that stuff. And then I got a piece of 2-inch PVC. Well, it's actually ABS, sleeved around another shorter piece of 1.5-inch pipe that's going back to where I want to connect it. So just kind of getting a general idea of what my layout's going to be. It's kind of nice to have stuff to kind of mock things up, to get an idea of what you're going to need lengthwise for your pipe. So what I'm going to end up doing is this piece of pipe is actually connected way back where it's going to connect to the cage back there. This is running forward, and then somewhere in here I actually want this to 45 degree down to this piece of pipe. So what I'll end up doing is taking the measurement from wherever I decide the 45 is going to be. That's what I'm going to use this piece of angle for, is to mark where the 45 I want to start going down to here. And so I'll measure from the end of the pipe to here, and then most likely what I'll do is I'll just take a straight measurement from there down to the angle here, and then I'll come over to this radius, and that's about 45 degrees ish. I'll figure out that angle here in a little bit. So I'll come over to my piece of pipe where it's flat, come down to where it's about 45, which is about half of this radius, and it's about 5 inches. So I'll add that 5 inches to the bend, or to the piece of pipe for the bend, and really it'll end up being just a little bit too long, which is probably a good thing. It gives me some pipe to trim off on that side and some pipe to trim off on this side to make it fit exactly how I want it to. And we need to have a little bit of extra to be able to notch the pipe or cope the pipe, whatever you want to call it, so that it fits well together. So I'm going to go ahead and get that measurement, and we're going to start cutting pipe. All right, so I got my my first piece of pipe cut here. And like we were talking about in the last video, this is my welded seam pipe, not DOM. So let's see if I can find it here. It's going to be really hard to see on camera, but you can actually look down in there and you can feel where the seam is. You can feel that there's like a little bit of a lip or bump or dip or whatever. If it was DOM, that would all be very consistent and very smooth all the way around. But if you're looking for why I'm using this welded seam pipe, go back and watch that other video, the last video. Basically the price of pipe is too dang high. But I also have my measurements here. You'll notice that I have a mark, and I have a B for bend and a NB for no bend. That way when I chalk this thing up into the bender, I don't mess up again. I learned my lesson. I do that a lot. In fact, the back portion of this truck, I will, if you haven't watched those videos at the very beginning of this build a while ago, before we went out and ran it the first time, if you look at the back of the truck, this piece here and this piece here They were actually my attempt to bend the main hoop, and I put the bend on the wrong side of one of my bends, which made the main hoop way too narrow. So make sure you're being very conscious of which side of your pipe is to be bent and not. Otherwise, you end up having to find other uses for it like that. Anyways, I got my bender out here all set up. We're gonna get this thing chalked up and start bending. I don't think I'm actually gonna show you me bending, but I will tell you to make sure that both of these surfaces are lubricated well, because the pipe will actually be drawn through that. So lubrication is good and key. And what else? Oh, there's a lot of different theories on this, and I think it depends on application. Honestly, I always try my best to put the seam to the inside of my bend. There are a lot of I think that's the general rule of thumb when people are bending pipe, right? So you can see this 90 that I have here, the seam is not exactly in the center of the bend, but yeah, there are applications where you want your seam to be run along the outside here. This would actually be the center line of the bend right here. So your seam would run along like this, and you'd be able to see it the whole time. I've always just put it on the inside. If you guys got any difference of opinion on that, go ahead and comment down below. But that's what I have always done for my cages and things like that. Now I do understand that for things for like structural tubing, a lot of times like in square tubing, things like that, they'll use the center line of bend, so it'll be kind of on the side of that radius. That's like structural stuff. So again, if you got any difference of opinion on that, down below. This is how I've always done it. This is how pretty much everybody I know that builds a cage does it. Does that mean it's right? Not necessarily. Does that mean it's wrong? Again, not necessarily. But definitely with this electronic welded stuff, I'm going to put the seam to the inside, because I believe that's just my best bet for strength. All right, I'm gonna get to bending. I'm gonna chalk this up. I'm gonna bend up this piece of pipe. I'll get it set in there. You guys don't need to really watch me bend pipe. I am here doing this by myself right now, so it's kind of tough to work the camera and do the pipe thing. And I would set you up on time lapse, except for it's actually pretty warm and we got a lot of sun. There's not a whole lot of smoke outside in comparison to the last handful of days, but the camera tends to overheat when it's sitting out in the sun. So I don't want to do the time lapse thing and then my camera be out of commission for a handful of hours until it cools down. So let me get some stuff bent and we'll come back to you. Okay, so I got my piece bent. I also notched it. I haven't cleaned up the ends for welding or anything. I literally just have this thing setting in place here, but you can see I'm going to go to the front bar up, and then there was a bend here. So to find my angle, when I had my mock-ups, I went and got one of these cheap angle finders here. Okay, just remember, when you read the angle, you got to know kind of which angle you're needing, right? So I had my mock-up piece of pipe sitting in here, and then I took another piece of, see, I got plenty of scrap, not really scrap, but kind of mildly long pieces to be able to set up there. And what I did was took a piece, in this case it was the square tubing, and I kind of set it where it was going to go, and I set it up where you know, kind of where it was going to intercept there up at the top. And then I took my angle finder thing I got here, I spread it out, and you know, I laid it up against the bottom of the pipe there, and then laid that up outside up against there, and I got a reading, and my reading was 60 degrees. So I cut this pipe to 60 degrees. Just remember, if that's the true degree that you want, fantastic. I know some people will, I don't know, you'll try to take the measurement from the wrong side or something, something funky, and you'll be like, oh, okay, 60 degrees, you bend it 60 degrees, and then you actually only needed a 30-degree bend. Remember, when you're bending, you can always bend it more, okay? So if you're not sure if you're supposed to have a 60-degree bend or a 30-degree bend, I mean, looking at it, you should probably be able to figure it out. But bend it the 30 degrees and then shove it up in there, and if it doesn't, you're like, oh man, that was definitely not enough. Go back and be like, oh, that's because I didn't subtract it from the 90 or whatever. Yeah, then yeah, anyways, I don't know, if you need me to go over a tutorial of how to get your angles, I can do that. I figure most of you guys that are watching this channel probably probably have a general idea on how to do that. This is how I find my angles, along with usually mocking stuff up. And so, like I said, I found my lengths. I showed you how I found my lengths, and then I added the 5 inches for the radius there. I probably actually did not need to do that. I always add a little bit, so I can, you know, beat to fit, paint to match. But you can see I ended up cutting off some of my end pieces here, and really the side that I was working on, because I knew I had my size correct here on this top side. What I did was I found my measurement. I had my piece of pipe completely butted up. It wasn't notched at the time, but it was completely butted up to this, right? And so I added a 1/2 inch for my cope or my notch here. And so that's actually where the first line of my end came from. So that was actually my first line when I just did my measurement from the end of the pipe to here. And then I added a 1/2 inch and marked that there. Actually, I added 1 inch, so I had some room to trim. I added 1 inch, so excuse my misspeak earlier. So I added 1 inch there, and then this is where my start of my bend was. And then when I set this up in there, I had a general idea of what I wanted, and the pipe was coming down, and of course it was sitting out here, and so I slowly I cut away a small chunk and set it up in there. Wasn't quite what I wanted. I cut another small chunk. It was really close to what I wanted, so I notched it so that I could set it into place here. One of the other things that I was really aiming for, because really the length of this piece from here to here was what was going to determine the height, right? It's going to determine the height of this bar. And I was, as you can see, there's a piece of angle there setting across my fenders. I wanted to make sure that this was going to be down inside my fenders and my hood. So set that across there, measuring down, making sure that it was going to clear. So from here to this lip was 1.25 inches, and I think right here, if I were to measure this, yeah, just over 1.25 inches. So that's going to be like perfect. I know my hood has a little bit of a bow in it, so that's actually going to be more than 1.25 inches of clearance in there, but that's what I want. So now the easy part, making one, now you got to duplicate it. So I'm going to make a match pair, one for that side, one for the other side, because again, I'm going to try to make it as symmetrical as possible. Right, so what I do to one side, I'm going to do to the other, and that's why I am starting off with the difficult side to do. Now, if you're taking out your booster and your master cylinder and you're doing something completely different, you probably don't have to worry about it with all this stuff set up. But I'm leaving as much stock stuff as possible, really, to be honest, because this is just a Tuff truck. I'm honestly getting a little carried away with it. You would think I was building a desert truck. Of course, if I was building a desert truck, I'd be using like probably 2-inch pipe and whatnot. Again, my pipe choice was 1.5 inch, 120 wall, because really in our rules, all it required, if you go back to the beginning videos, all our rules required was this down bar right here. That's it. It's all the rules required as far as cage goes. But I'm a guy that likes to take things a little bit over the top, and I like to be a little aggressive, and I'm also I'm finally smart enough in my age to know that things happen and I can get hurt. I've been in enough wrecks in a race car and stuff to know that you can get hurt if you don't do things properly. So I decided to put a cage in here just to, you know, make myself feel better. And if I ever put a passenger seat in there, it makes my passenger feel a whole lot better as well. So anyways, back to this front hoop. I'm going to duplicate this one. It's nice that I have my lines here. I'll just draw measurements off of this one this time because it's the perfect piece of pipe and it should be that to that one. If I actually want to double check that that exact same piece of pipe is going to be good for this side over here, which I'll probably do that. I'm going to take this out, set it in place over here, make sure it fits nice. If there's any adjustment in sizing that I need to do, I can take that into consideration, either both, you know, when I first cut my pipe, or when you know, if I need more pipe, I obviously am going to have to add more pipe, right? But if it needs to be just slightly smaller for some weird reason, which it shouldn't be, then I'll cut it to the exact same size and then trim as I go, like I did before. In this case, I'd rather trim it 4 times and get it right than trim it once and be too short and waste a piece of pipe, especially with the price of pipe right now. So, all right, I'm gonna quit yakking at you and work on the second half. Okay guys, I am wanting to catch this on camera for you guys. So got one hoop made, got the other hoop made. I am currently checking for square. So what I did is I made sure I took my measurements from a spot that I have on both sides. In this case, I did it off the cab. I did it off the door jamb here because I'm not 100% sure if when we did this cage, if that tube's in the exact same spot as that tube over there, because at first we weren't going to build a front hoop, so you know, that might be off by 1/4 inch, 1/8 inch, whatever. But body to there is gonna be good because, you know, we didn't take it off the body mounts or anything. Anyways, found the same spot from there to there as I did over there to there, so I know that's good. And then what I did, I still have my line intact from my bend line. You can see right there, on both sides, right? So that is a point that is the same, because that end of the pipe to there, that end of the pipe to there, it's the same. So I then started looking, and I don't know if you can see it, but this side's sitting a little higher than this side. When I cut this portion, I left just a little bit to, you know, beat to fit, paint to match. And so what I'm looking at right now, sorry, I'm messing with the tape measure. What I'm looking at right now is a height difference. That's at 21, we'll call it 21 inches to the angle there. And then this one, 20.5. So looking at about a 1/2 inch height difference. When I did this pipe, the original, I had the original bend in there, and then I ended up having to flatten it out just a couple degrees, shove it in the bumper on the back there, and, you know, take some of the bend out to get it to fit in there. And when I put this piece of pipe in, I ended up actually like pushing it in to get it to fit on there. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to start trimming this portion down a little bit, and as I trim this down, I will end up having to flatten this out just a little, and I'm going to try to make those two heights match across the top there. That way it is, you know, even and square. But you can see that, you know, even if you use the there's a squirrel running around the truck. I don't know if you can see him down there. He's hanging out in the shade. He's a big guy. Anyways, tangent. Squirrel. Yeah, I'm like a dog. Anyways, he was over there checking out the bender. Back on track. Squirrel. So I'm gonna try to get this, you know, within a 1/16 of an inch of each other. That would make me happy. So that means there's going to be a little bit of trimming to be done on this end of the pipe, and as I trim it, I'll probably actually just use the notching tool, the coping tool, to trim off more and more and more and let it set down on that. And then as it comes off of the pipe, I will flatten it out and shove it back in there, and then make sure that, you know, we're square across the top. So a little bit at a time here. Hopefully it don't take more than twice, but we're gonna find out. So let me get to it. All right, so front bars are tacked in place. They're about, I don't know, if I wanted to spend some more time, I could probably get it just a little bit more square, but they're about 1/8 of an inch away from square from each other. Yeah, I think that's, I mean, it's a Tuff truck, right? It's not, like I said, it's not an off-road race truck. It's just a Tuff truck. I probably don't need to be that accurate with it in the first place, but I don't know. Anyways, front hoops are in. It's ready for me to start doing down bars. Part of me wants to wait. I'm going to do the other hoop that comes out of here, connects to here, but I will be doing my shock mount off of that. So part of me wants to wait for that portion until I actually have the shocks here, so that I know that I'm putting things really where they need to go. So yeah, I might be done with front hoop stuff for right now, but I do need to come back here. We still got the rear shocks to do. We do have the rear shocks, so I'm probably going to take the time to cut the old body mount off here. Same thing with the other side, and start getting laid out to bend a piece of pipe for that. So yeah, here we go. All right, guys, I think I'm gonna be finishing it up here. As you can tell, it's dark. I kind of just started working because I was running out of light. Not the best in the world for light to be able to see what's going on here, but you can see I got upper rear shock mounts kind of tacked in place. That's really all they are, is tacked in place. I haven't done the bottom ones yet. I'm sure in the light I'll go over more on how I did measurements and stuff to find those, but basically well, to find the placement for height and stuff, I'll go over that. But basically what this is just a 90-degree, this is a 90-degree bend here, and then I coped in a 45 on the bottoms here, and was able to set that right on there and, you know, rotate it the way I wanted to with a little bit of extra trimming. Seeing how it lined up with a joint here where there's welds, and it lined up with a joint here where there's welds. So those are all just tacked in place. Front hoop right now, all just tacked in place. Yeah, we're rocking and rolling, and making a little bit of headway, running out of light. So thanks for watching, guys. If you have any questions, comments, concerns on what we're doing, you know, comment down below. And really do please like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel. I do appreciate it. I'm gonna probably have at it some more over the next, you know, week or so, trying to get as much as I possibly can done in the short amount of time that I have. So yeah, I'm just glad that it's starting to come together and things are actually going on to the truck now. So again, thanks for watching, guys. Like, subscribe, Lumsden Motorsports Facebook page. Send me a message if you want a Lumsden Motorsports Win the Show, Be the Show t-shirt. We'll get that to you. And until next time, guys, have a good one.